Texas Republican and member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Dan Crenshaw, joins me. Good afternoon, sir. And you've been to Venezuela a number of times. I've been there just a couple. Tell me, what are your thoughts about what's next for Venezuela and your overall of the operation?
Well, look, I think there's a bright future for Venezuela. Maduro is a descendant of the Chavistas, Hugo Chavez. I remember when living in Colombia at the time and taking numerous trips to Venezuela. It was a very normal thing to do. And my family actually moved to Caracas right after I left for college. And so, I've been there a number of times, and it was a prosperous country, even under Chavez. But, Chavez was new back then. And socialism takes a while to destroy a country. And Maduro he didn't have any of the good qualities that Chavez had, and had all of the worst ones, and absolutely destroyed the country. We've seen it happen over the course of a couple decades now. I have yet to meet any Venezuelans that I've seen flee the country that don't want Maduro gone. And that's why you're seeing these celebrations all over the place, and I'm sure including in Venezuela itself. So I see a bright future there. As far as the operation itself, pretty mind-blowing and incredible operation. But this has become the norm for what we can expect from our special operations units and our combined joint forces in the military, and what we're able to accomplish. Training for months, figuring out exactly what that compound looks like, timing it just right. The amount of planning and precision that goes into something like this is really impressive. I'm only sad that it wasn't Navy SEALs and it was Delta Force. But congrats to my friends at Delta for accomplishing such an awesome op.
Well, my only trip there was in the 1980s, and it was such a successful place. And it seemed like what a weird thing to say, but a quote normal country, a place that was thriving and welcomed people from other countries. Of course, that's not the same. I mean, they've been living in utter poverty the last 2 decades. I mean, people have been fleeing Venezuela, not because they like Maduro, but because they got to get out because it's so bad there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Look, in Houston, either has the first or the second largest population of Venezuelans. And you can't find a group of people that they remind me of Cubans in Florida. I mean, very pro-American, very anti-socialist. All they want is for America. They want American intervention. A lot of people in America think that nobody around the world wants us there, and that America first means just looking inward and pretending there's no other countries outside of ours, and that there's no interest in even using any resources of ours to create some kind of stability, especially in our own hemisphere. And that's just crazy. Foreign policy, good foreign policy can be summarized in one word, and it's stability. And I think President Trump knows this. And I think we have a more stable future for Venezuela now and the Western Hemisphere.
Well, I think an argument can be made that it is America first if your neighbors are healthy and doing well economically, so they don't want to flood your borders, and so you don't get the worst, and you don't get their drugs as well. So if you can stop the flow of drugs, I mean, it sort of
Exactly.
is America first, because we really, we don't inhabit this planet alone. So to the extent we can protect ourselves. But are you surprised that this didn't leak? I mean, this is a city where everything leaks like a sieve, but this happened without a whisper.
I'm a little surprised. They kept it pretty close hold. Obviously, there was no briefings to Congress, and you could guarantee a leak. And look, should people like me be briefed? Yes. I mean, with my history there and my position on the Intelligence Committee, but you can't do that. You can't just brief some members. So I am totally fine with the administration's actions on this. I think by law, this operation did not meet the necessary requirements to pre-brief Congress. And there's practically speaking, it does have to be kept very close hold. It's hard to imagine a more sensitive operation. Look, this guy's not the head of a state. He's not recognized as president of Venezuela. That's why this makes this, that's an important legal distinction. And so this was a legal DOJ operation supported by the Department of War. Important to make that distinction, and therefore it is not necessary to involve Congress. It should be necessary from here going forward to involve us. That's for sure. But I totally understand why you keep it a secret.
It's not wholly unlike the seizure of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan in 2011. He was not a head of state either. We had an indictment for him, like we have an indictment for Maduro and his wife. We went into Pakistan without permission and you know, without notifying Pakistan we're coming. President Obama made that call. And we seized him. So it does sort of mirror that when we have a standing indictment.
And then it mirrors Obama's actions in Libya. And that was a head of state, Gaddafi. Noriega is another past example. So there's precedent for this. And again, a lot of the Democrats beating their chest over this. Look, for years they've been saying, we can't just close the border. We have to think about root causes. And things like that. You can't kick these poor Venezuelans out. They're just fleeing a dictator that's terrible. Okay, then don't get mad when you get the dictator. I mean, what? It's just you can't have those two thoughts in your head at the same time. And so, but look, let's be honest. The Orange Man is always bad to a lot of the people who don't like him. They're not going to like anything he does. I objectively look at Trump's actions. I always have, and I think this term it's been some of his best actions I've ever seen. So, and this is one of them.
Well, we'll see how it unfolds, too, because it's just day one. Congressman Dan Crenshaw, thank you, sir.
Thank you.